Okay, if everyone could be seated, please. It's 6 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, can everyone hear me? Please sit down. I used to be a sixth grade teacher, so. Please take your seats, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, and thank you to everyone here and watching elsewhere for participating in our democracy by being a part of this candidate forum. The candidates here tonight are running for seats on the Novato City Council in Districts 1, 3, and 5. My name is Robin Diedrich. I am the forum coordinator and a member of both of the organizations sponsoring tonight's forum, the League of Women Voters of Marin County and Seroptimus International of Novato. I worked with a team of dedicated members of these organizations to provide this candidate forum for Novato voters. In 2020, the League of Women Voters will celebrate 100 years of following a mission to empower voters and defend democracy. Hosting and moderating candidate forums is an important part of our vision of a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League of Women Voters is a strictly nonpartisan organization and never supports or opposes individual candidates or political parties. We encourage the public to ask questions of the candidates tonight by submitting them on cards that are available from our question crew. Simply raise your hand to get a blank card and pencil, or to have your question card picked up. I would now like to introduce our forum moderator from the League of Women Voters, Linda Deer.
Hello, and welcome to this candidate forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County and Seroptimus International of Novato. I am Linda Deer of the Marin League, and I will be your moderator. With me are League members Elaine Biagini, our timekeeper, and Jackie Dagg, our question sorter. As most of you already know, there are 5 Novato City Council districts. This first by-district election is discussed in the voter information guide sent to each Novato voter. If you have not received a copy, you may contact the County Elections Department. Contact information is available on their website. In addition, district boundary information is available at the information table near the entrance to this building. Only 3 of the 5 districts will have elections in November, Districts 1, 3, and 5. To alleviate some of the confusion created by this new landscape, we've used 3 colors to differentiate the districts. Black for District 1, red for District 3, and green for District 5. There are 7 candidates running for 3 seats on the Novato City Council, 1 seat in each of the districts 1, 3, and 5. All candidates are with us tonight. They are from District 1, Jim Petre and Susan Warnick. From District 3, Eric Lucan and Kevin Morrison. From District 5, Melissa Galliani, Marie Hoke, and Amy Peel. Before we get started, let's review a few ground rules. Please take a minute to silence your cell phones or any other noise-making devices. Because we are strictly a nonpartisan organization and follow Federal Election Commission rules regarding candidate forums, no campaign material is permitted in the auditorium. That includes buttons, signs, brochures, t-shirts, etc. However, campaign brochures may, with permission, be placed on a table in the entryway after the forum has concluded. Most importantly, we expect candidates and audience to remain civil and courteous throughout. Please do not make comments or applaud answers by individual candidates. Let us use this evening as an opportunity to listen to and learn from all 7 candidates. Each candidate has been invited to make a 1-minute opening statement. We begin with Jim Petre and go down the row in the order they are seated. Jim, you're on.
Good evening. They always have the old guy go first. I don't understand. But anyway, my name is Jim Petre. I'm running for City Council in District 1. I'm a CPA by trade, and I've been in the business for about 43 years. And in that time, I've been an accountant and a business consultant across a wide variety of industries and businesses. I decided to run here for two reasons. One, I had a lot of consternation over the way the budgets were being worked on and the financial solvency of the city. And secondly, I was a little upset at the way business was being conducted here. I'm a creative thinker and a problem solver. I'm also fiscally conservative. I'm a taxpayer advocate as well. I love being of service, and I've done that with humility and gratitude, which is I would expect to do here.
Susan?
Good evening. My name is Susan Warnick. A little bit about me. I was raised in Mill Valley, and I've been a resident of Novato for the past 37 years. My parents were both local public servants in Mill Valley, and they instilled in me the desire to give back to my community and work to help promote positive change. I've been a community volunteer for many years. I've helped my husband run a local business, and I've worked in several businesses in Novato, both large and small. I became actively involved in local government in 2010 when I served on the city manager's working group, which was challenged with the task of identifying sites in the city that could accommodate affordable housing. I've been a Novato Planning Commissioner for the past 5.5 years, and that's increased my interest and commitment to working to help move Novato forward in a healthy, sustainable, and collaborative way. With my leadership experience and extensive civic engagement, I'm confident that I'm ready to serve as a Novato City Council member. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Lucan. I want to start out by thanking the League of Women Voters and Seroptimus International in Novato for hosting this forum, and to all of you for attending. For me, it remains an honor to be your council representative, to work together to develop and champion projects that really uphold our hometown character and keep us economically strong. I feel we've accomplished a lot together during my time on council. We've improved public safety through police retention, and crime is at a historic low. We've expanded local senior housing by over 200 units. We've improved public transportation and infrastructure. And there's an excitement in downtown with new shops and restaurants and a downtown smart station coming soon. Some of my future priorities include addressing and improving our fire safety, advancing sustainability and clean technology, continuing the revitalization of our downtown, and finishing Highway 101 and addressing Highway 37 resiliency. And I look forward to continuing to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for helping me. Many of you know the name Greta Thunberg. A few weeks ago at the United Nations, this young girl told us adults, how dare you to continue to look away, to continue to pretend that this can be solved by just business as usual. She was talking about the climate crisis, but she might as well have been talking about Novato City Hall. Our concerns about the environment, housing, crime, jobs, homelessness, and elders who are lonely and afraid, we cannot look away. We have to fix these problems, and it won't happen if we don't change City Hall. I'm no Greta Thunberg, but I promise to fight for change. I promise not to look away, and I ask for your vote.
Hi, I'm Melissa Galliani, and I'm sure that probably you read my bio, so I'm just going to go with this. I loved moving to Hamilton in 2011 because it felt like I was coming home and brought back fond memories of my father, who served as a pilot in the Air Force for 24 years. I'm thankful I was able to find a house for myself and my 2 young girls. As a single mother, Hamilton and Novato gave me a safe and secure environment to raise a family. That is something I will always appreciate and strive to protect. Public safety is paramount. My 20 years at KGO Radio, a platform where people call in and discuss current events, gives me an in-depth knowledge on issues that matter to everyday people. I am an independent thinker, idea generator, and problem solver. Communication is key to getting things done, ethical, honest, and transparent. Together with collaboration and cooperation, we can help Novato continue to grow and be a vibrant community, a great place to work, live, and thrive. and it all starts on the local level. Did I go over?
Thank you. I am Marie Hoke. I'm a 20-year resident of Novato and a 30-year resident of Marin County. Novato is a city of neighborhoods, and our neighborhoods deserve accountable, responsible, and fiscally sustainable government. As your District 5 representative on the City Council, I will make fiscally sound and responsible budget decisions. We have been warned that without new revenue, the city will face service cuts, staff cuts, closing of city facilities. I will call for the hiring of outside expertise to evaluate the city budget, update our financial reporting and forecasting, and deliver a set of options for containing expenses and boosting revenue over the long term. I will make our building permit process user-friendly and less costly. I will advocate for improved fire safety and emergency preparedness. I will call for establishing a District 5 Flood Control Advisory Board to protect our levee from sea level rise and to develop a plan to replace our 25-year-old pump stations before end of life.
Good evening, I'm Amy Peel. I've been a resident of Novato for over 30 years. My husband and I moved here and had our children and raised our children. This room is very familiar to me because we sat in this room a lot. I am a nurse as well. I've been a nurse for 45 years. 35 of those years were running the largest transplant program in the United States at UCSF, where we did 600 transplants a year. So I'm used to quite a busy pace, and we used to call it a crisis du jour because we always had things going on that needed immediate attention. I worked with a large staff, a very large budget, and scarce resources, but those resources were more organs than they were fiscal. I also managed a very large budget. So I retired 5 years ago, and I am ready to roll my sleeves up and bring my can-do attitude and my love for Novato to represent you in District 5, and I'm excited about what can happen right now in Novato.
Thank you. Now for the questions. Now for the questions. The candidates will each have 1 minute to answer. To be fair, I will rotate the order in which they respond to the questions, and we'll begin with Susan Warnick. First question. What do you think is the most important issue or problem facing Novato, and how do you intend to deal with it as a council member? Susan?
The most important issue facing Novato right now is finding increased revenue sources. As we look at our budget, we're going to have issues in the coming years. So new revenue sources are things we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at retaining and recruiting new businesses to come to Novato. We should be taking a look, unfortunately, at an additional 0.25% sales tax. We are at 8.5%. We have 3 other cities in Novato, San Rafael, Corte Madera, and Larkspur, that are all at 9%. So, and we were at 9% not too long ago. So finding new revenue sources and being fiscally sustainable is the most important issue, in my opinion, right now. Thank you.
I actually see it as 2 issues. I apologize. There's one that's a short-term issue and one that's a longer-term issue. The one that's a short-term issue is we have had some staffing changes and some staffing turnover at the top at the City of Novato that many of you are probably aware of. We also know with this election we're going to have at least 2 new council members. So I really see this as an opportunity for Novato to get the right individuals, the right people in place so that we have organizational sustainability moving forward. And that's something I look forward to working with my colleagues on the council to establish and to make the ultimate hire for our city manager, which is one of the most important decisions that council makes. But that's short term. In the long run, everything we're able to do as a city is going to come out of our budget, and whether or not we have a sustainable budget moving forward. We've got decent reserves right now, but in the long term, our expenses are growing faster than our revenues, which means we might have to make some difficult decisions coming up, and that's something that we need to continue to look at how we best manage that for our community and provide the great services we're currently providing moving forward.
Kevin?
Righty. Well, since I've entitled my campaign Green Novato, it may not surprise you for me to sit up here and say I think the biggest issue facing us is climate change. I run into a conversational bump, though, when I bring that up in the context of a city council election, because people will look at me and say, how can we do anything that has anything to do with climate change? And, well, the short answer is everything we do affects our prosperity and affects the way we live, which is inextricably linked to climate change. The fact that we have some fiscal problems in Novato can be fixed by investing in green business, by reducing taxes and fees on green business, by incentivizing people to see Novato in a different way, what I call Green Novato. Thank you.
Melissa?
So I'm going to go with bringing in, revitalizing the downtown of Novato, making it a great place to work and live. You know, a lot of people like me, I have to commute to the city, and I just think that there's so much opportunity to bring new business here to Novato and also create fun things for people to do, you know, live and work and, you know, shop and eat and all the things that make a downtown a really wonderful place to be and to live.
Thank you. Marie?
Thank you. I believe it's our budget, our spending plan. On July 9th, our former city manager said that Measure F funds are going to be depleted in June of 2020, which is really soon. And he said without those funds, the city is going to have to make drastic reductions to staffing levels, eliminate several parks and rec programs, close city facilities, and reduce or contract out several other city services. So I think this is a really urgent situation, and that the city needs to hire some outside expertise. We've had so much change in the city in the last year that I think we need to build trust with voters. We need to have an independent consultant come and present us some options because we're going to have to get voter support for whatever measures that we need to take.
Thank you. Amy?
First of all, I think that we need to maintain a new level of civility, professionalism, and inclusion at the council level, a level of respect, and then we also have to re-earn the trust of the public and make sure that they will trust us to make good decisions while they participate in the decision-making process. I agree that we have budget issues that need to be addressed immediately, but I don't think we can move forward anywhere until we've re-earned the trust back from many of the citizens in Novato. So I would say first and foremost is electing officials that people feel they can trust to make good decisions. We also do have some issues around safety, and also our senior citizens and the housing issues are not what they seem to be when you peel back the onion. Some of our seniors are living in houses that are supposed to be under rent control and are actually being evicted often because of the issues that are going unaddressed.
Thank you. Jim?
I won't belabor on the finance issue, as I think that's a common thread for all of us. So what I am going to direct my attention to is the way the city is run, and particularly the role of the city manager and its relationship with the city council. I think there was a disturbance in the force this year with respect to that, and don't know exactly the reasons why, but I believe the new city manager, if he becomes a city manager, Adam, has a very deep value structure, and I think he's going to be a great addition to the city here. And I really think having him be able to work with the council in a mutually respectful way will be awesome, and it just goes a long way to serving and solving a lot of problems. The second is the role of hopefully soon-to-be finance director and having a really strong finance department in improving the financial policies in the city. And I'm not saying they're going awry, but it's something I would like to look at and hold those people that are responsible accountable for taking care of the money that we work so hard for.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to begin with Eric. The question is, what do you think the city of Novato should do about the need for affordable and workforce housing?
I think we should do more. Every time I talk about affordable housing and workforce housing, I start by letting everybody know that a family of four making $115,000 a year qualifies for affordable housing in Novato. And I think when you look at that, we need to build more housing for individuals that meet that criteria. There's a great need for it. And we've done a lot in Novato. In fact, Novato has built more affordable and workforce housing per capita than any other city in Marin. But to me, I don't take that as we've done our part. I take that as Novato has been a leader in this. Let's continue to be a leader in this area because we know there's a great need. We have zoned properties that a shovel can go in the ground tomorrow with just a building permit, but construction costs are so high that it's difficult to even build these projects. I think we need to continue to do whatever we can to incentivize these units to get built because we know the need is great, and we're not going to be able to solve the housing crisis, but the units that we can get built are going to help those individuals. Thank you.
So, one of the first things that we have to do to incentivize housing and workforce housing is eliminate taxes on new housing and eliminate fees on new housing. It's a small percentage of the budget, but it's a big deal when you're looking at what you can do to build a house or build a granny unit. And by putting that best foot forward in what I call Green Novato, you will find that people will look at Novato and go, how can you do that? How can you do this without taxes and fees? And the shortest answer we have is you just do it. We also should invest in big projects. One of the things that came up just a couple of weeks ago is the notion that we could level Fireman's Fund. Just take that building, that concrete slab off the map. It's right by San Marin Smart Station, and it's perfect for affordable, transit-centered workforce housing.
Melissa?
So it's going to be hard to come up with new ideas by the end of this 7 people, but obviously it's zoning, permits and zoning, incentivizing builders to create more housing because it make it easier to get permits to add the ADU units and also I think what we can do that hasn't been mentioned is we need to knock on people's doors. If there's people that own land and property that don't live around here, that aren't available and they're not being responsive, we just need to knock on their door until we get them to be responsive. And sorry that I forgot to turn on my mic. But I have a big mouth.
Marie?
District 5 is the superstar when it comes to affordable housing. You know, the city's website lists 1,500 and 7 affordable housing units in Novato, and of those, 960 are in Hamilton. And then if you look at District 5 as a whole, what's not counted there are 530 senior mobile home park homes, which are also affordable. So that takes us up to 1,500 units of affordable housing right in District 5. Plus we have new housing on the horizon, of which 20% will be affordable, right? So we've got senior apartments coming in, we've got the villas, we've got city ventures with 60 to 80 units, and we have the Coast Guard property, 50 acres, which is likely to come on the market next year. So I think we need to maintain affordability, but particularly in the senior mobile home parks, make sure that we don't sell the parks and sell the one that the city owns. But I just want to call the attention to how much affordable housing we have right now in District 5 and how valuable it is to everyone.
Amy?
Yeah. So in terms of affordable housing, I'm not sure that I agree with the word affordable because people who can try to get into low-income housing don't have much money. And the mean income in Marin County, which is one of the richest counties, is quite high, as another person already spoke. So people to get into low-income housing, workforce housing, or affordable housing may not have much money, and when they get in, sometimes it becomes more expensive for them to stay in there, depending on what kind of services and fees that are levied upon them. You also have to understand that sometimes people like HUD and the state of California have jurisdiction over some of the housing. So they don't necessarily, a city council might not have to be able to make changes in the types of affordable housing, but we as a city council have to be aware of what our citizens have, and thank God there's places that are safe and that they, for some folks, are affordable, but in other places it is not, and people are still being evicted.
To start off with, SB 5 was recently passed by the state of California, and it's going to provide up to 86,000 units here in the state with the assistance of the state over the next 10 years. So I'm hoping Nevada gets its share of those units. One thing relative to workforce housing, I would support a program offering down payment assistance, especially for public safety people. Not necessarily live in Nevada, but to be able to live nearby where their commute's not killing them. Low-cost loans are a technique used in the private sector, and it's a great way to help people. It's not a handout, it's just given a hand. Lastly, I think it'd be worth looking at the availability of in-law units here in town for purposes of rental and exploring the pros and cons of that and how the permitting process might be expedited to support that as well.
Susan?
I've been deeply involved in the housing issue for many years, back to 2010. In my neighborhood, we have the San Andreas school site parcel, 21 acres, and this school district right now is looking at the possibility of including workforce housing on that site. As an SMIA board member, I've been involved in conversations with the school district and the possibility of that happening in conjunction with the city. So we've done a great job. In Novato, certainly in Hamilton, we did a tremendous job. We have a Habitat for Humanity project downtown on 4th Street, which is a wonderful example of affordable housing that people can purchase. Eden Housing was built on Diablo. It's another wonderful senior housing project. So we also in town, and I'm proud as a planning commissioner to have been involved in the concept of junior accessory dwelling units. So that is something where the city worked with the sanitary district and the water district to reduce fees to make these units more affordable.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to begin with Kevin. Can the city of Novato expand options for last mile to all of Novato's smart stations, especially from areas where people live who own only one or no cars per family?
So I don't know. How many people here have used ride-sharing services? Uber, Lyft, taxis, a few of you, right? There are some really great, innovative, and successful programs going on in Marin, in fact, that help you get that last mile from the smart station to your door at a subsidized rate. It still costs you a few bucks, but it's better than walking, and it's better than having to park your car and pay for parking. There are other ways in which we can do innovative last mile services. Starting with the first little bit of the last mile, I think I'm going to steal something from Denise Athas, who said, why don't we have jitneys that take us from like downtown station to the bus stop? And that would be a really fun thing if we had pedicabs. And I think, you know what? You're right. We start thinking, we start having some fun with the question, we're going to come up with some good answers. Thank you.
So I think this goes right hand in hand with the affordable housing issue, and for young people in Novato to have affordable housing, to be able to live here, to have our children be able to live here, and I'm talking about young adults. They need to have transportation, and they need to be able to get to the transportation. And if it costs a lot of money for them to go that last route, then it's not going to be affordable, and it's just going to be another barrier. So I would say, yeah, let's look. I don't know the details because I'm not involved in the planning in the city council at this time, so I don't know there's probably more to it than what I know, but I think it should be looked into, and I think it should be provided.
So I believe the question was about smart stations, last mile to smart. So there are almost three smart stations in Novato. One of them is in Hamilton, where I live. What we find with the Hamilton station is most of the riders are going to Hamilton Landing. There aren't a large number of riders going south or going north from the Hamilton station. As far as the last mile goes, this would be for people who don't want to drive, because the Hamilton Park is one of two smart stations that has a parking lot. and that parking lot is always empty. So there's lots and lots of spaces there. It's probably empty because SMART charges $2 a day to park there, and you can go down the street and park for free. So who's going to pay $2 if you can walk a block, right? I understand that TAM is looking at grants for self-driving buses. So as president of the HOA, I've been approached about whether we would be open to be part of an experiment for self-driving buses, particularly so those buses could take people to the Belmar and Keys Industrial Park.
Amy?
I would suggest that we need a collaborative effort here, both with the businesses in town, big and small, who are nearby the SMART train, whose employees and percentages that most businesses can tell you about. Specifically, if you think about BioMarin, who's really encouraging their employees to take the SMART train and potentially offering a shuttle to get them to the campus that's currently at Belmar and Keys. I think there's got to be a partnership, and there also has to be an assessment of what we have now on the ground, because I know in Hamilton we have that lovely shuttle. Some of that comes out of our homeowners association dues, but that shuttle does pick people up closer to home and gets them around. There's also bicycles that some people, if you get on the SMART train, you'll see that there's a place for the bikes, so some people might like that. And then there may be some opportunity to pick people up in different shuttle systems, because as we know, once transportation is gone, the amount that seniors, when they can't get out of their house, their health care declines. So I think this is really important to glue this together.
Jim?
I think one of the challenges with public transit is, and the success of it, is related to accessibility, convenience, how much it costs, how easy it is to get to. That said, how to get people out of their cars and onto the SMART train is for sure a challenge. And I will agree with Amy. I think it's important for employers to talk with their employees about how they can help them utilize this tool. Secondly, I think SMART could do a better job of marketing and trying to figure out how to get people onto the train to make it attractive and fun and convenient. And I think that would help immensely.
Susan?
I'm in agreement with a lot of the comments and suggestions that the other candidates have mentioned. One of my examples that frustrates me is Vintage Oaks. So we have a shopping center that has largely a lot of lower paid workers. And as I travel back and forth, it's a long distance from that shopping center out to where the bus pads are at the freeway. Partnership is huge, what Amy talked about, partnership with our business communities. And what I would love to see, one first step, is working with the businesses at Vintage Oaks to provide transportation, not just to the SMART station, but a more safe and accessible way to get to those bus pads where many of those workers are traveling to and from.
With regards to first and last mile connections, I actually don't believe that this is directly something that the city of Novato has control over, but it's something that we need to be collaborating with our county and regional partners with. The one thing the city of Novato did do is we put in a downtown SMART station, a lot of it at our own cost. We did that because 1/3 of Novato lives within a mile of that downtown station. So putting the stations close to where people are and also close to our Redwood and Grant transportation hub, that was a smart decision that the city did. As far as how do we get people first and last mile, SMART, in collaboration with MTC, is looking at a bike share that is going to be at all of the SMART stations. That's something where the city of Novato can say, you know what, let's partner with them. If we're going to get 10 bikes at each station, maybe the city wants to add a couple bikes and complement that. Also, Transportation Authority of Marin does have a rebate program for Lyft line. I encourage you to go to marincommutes.org. You can save $5 on a Lyft ride if you end at a SMART station.
The next question we'll start with Melissa. In Marin, approximately 30% of residents are over 60 years of age. What specific actions will you put in place to ensure that the needs of older adults in Novato are addressed?
Well, one of the things that was mentioned earlier was about the affordable housing and that it's not really affordable because it's not managed by rent control and caps. And so there's some, well, I'm very much familiar with Hamilton because we have deals made with the city because when the Air Force sold it to the town, there were some stipulations. But I think that that these things need to be managed by the city. And like we're talking about, transportation is very important to keep people mobile and keep them out. And I think when we keep doing we're looking at affordable housing, keep doing that. I think all these issues play into the fact of what are we going to do for the 16 over and how their needs are met.
Marie?
Certainly Marin is full of aging people, and I'm an example of that as an over 60 person. Within the District 5, we have a lot of senior housing. We have the 2 mobile home parks, and we have the villas, and we have a lot of older people. One topic that's been brought to my attention about the villas is their affordability goes away in 14 years. And in the meantime, people are being nickel and dimed, and the way that the rent increases go has to do with average median income. So for seniors, I think we need affordabilities that based around what Social Security pays, as opposed to around average median income, because average median income will go up, but seniors' income won't. And so when we have our standard affordability indexes around average median income, it means that people can't afford over time.
Thank you. Amy?
Well, this is a little near and dear to my heart because I just turned 66 last Wednesday, so I consider myself a senior. And I really want to stay in Novato, and I want to live in Novato, and I see that myself and my husband will likely be downsizing, but we need to be able to afford to downsize. If we were to sell our house now, we really couldn't buy anything else I am on a fixed income, so we only have so much to spend. Seniors, we want them to be vibrant. We want them to be part of our community. Part of my dream is to marry the seniors with the children at different school districts in Hamilton. Again, we're lucky because we have a vibrant school system and we're having a lot of senior housing. I think there's something to be gained to have seniors working within the school system when and if they want to volunteer. This is done in different parts of the United States as well as out of the country where they actually have a good, healthy partnership that keeps people more motivated and vibrant. And then they can afford also, if you feel better, you are healthier and your community is healthier.
The issues relative to seniors and activities also pertains to youth, but a couple things. I know the Margaret Todd Center does wonderful things with people our age, my age, and I would love to explore how that can be expanded and embellished. The same goes for the Parks and Recs Department, speaking with the director of that department to see about how these activities can be enhanced would be a good thing to do. I think it's all about outreach, and I think we're assuming that we know what seniors want or what they desire. And I think having some kind of public forum where we invite people to come and express their feelings about what they truly want and need and what their challenges are would be really useful in coming up with a solution to this.
Susan?
I don't want to repeat everything everyone else said. One of the issues that I've had as a planning commissioner is the housing issue again. And we're seeing the housing projects that are coming forward are typically townhouses now. They're 3 stories. And what we're not seeing are single level units. Most of our seniors are desired to age in place. That becomes very difficult if they're in a larger home. I'd like to see more options for our seniors to be able to move out of their single family homes and move into units that are a single level. And I'd like to see the city do something to encourage developers to come forward when they're building perhaps an 80-unit project like we're going to see up on North Redwood. If some of those units could not be single level, not only for our seniors, but for perhaps some of our disabled residents.
There's no question that Novato and Marin is a rapidly aging community, and I think when we look at how do we address it, a couple things we need to make sure we're doing is we need to keep seniors active. And when you look at, I've always been told, if you want to look at a community's values, look at where they're investing. And we invest in our senior community here through our budget. And we need to continue to do that through the Margaret Todd, through the Novato Senior Citizen Club, keep programs and keep investing in that for our seniors. We also need to keep seniors housed. And we talked about the affordability issue a little bit earlier on. We've been very successful in building additional senior units, but more needs to be done because when a housing is pegged to the area median income, It might meet the definition of affordable, but it might not actually be affordable. And then finally, we need to keep the services there. When people age, the economy starts to shift from a goods-based economy to a service-based economy. And a service-based economy is dependent on employees who can provide those services. We need to make sure those employees can be here in Novato as well.
So I think the fastest and best and most inclusive way for the needs of older citizens to be addressed is by helping to subsidize a low-income workforce in Novato. Now, we saw this play out recently in the minimum wage acceleration. Unfortunately, that punished the local small business owners. If I had been part of that decision-making process, we would have found a way for the city and the small business owners to share the burden of those last few dollars that incentivize low-income workers. We don't want to penalize our senior citizens in the same way. We want the city to have a vision, a way to subsidize the costs of low-income workers, the people who come in and do home care or yard work or bring senior citizens to and from their destinations. It's good for the low-income worker, it's good for the senior, it's good for small business, and it's good for the city. Thank you.
The next question, we're going to begin with Marie. What measures are you supporting to ensure that our students are safe from fear of deportation?
As a council member of the city of Novato, I don't think I've seen that come up on the agenda. I would think that the question would apply to everyone in the city, not necessarily just students. We have a very well-regarded police force. We have school officers. I think we have pretty good visibility to our students and our residents here. I have to say it's not something that I have personal experience with, so I can't really come up with anything specific for that, but I'm sure someone else will.
Thank you.
I'll give you what I got.
Yeah.
So recently, if you noticed, we had an immigration rally here in Novato, which I was very proud to participate in, because I am really enraged and outraged by what has been happening at the borders and how these children and their families have been separated. It's unacceptable behavior. I think we do need a safe plan. That may have to be a connection with the school district and the police department and possibly the city council in terms of being aware that should and if somebody like ICE come to school and try to take somebody, a child, or their family, and mom and dad don't show up to pick them up, that there's got to be a plan in place to help that child, God forbid, that they don't have a home to go or parents there to be with them. I think we all share in the safety of our children in Novato. And I think we have to team up as a city of citizens who care about the safety and figure out a nice collaborative plan so that we can hold these little lives and take care of them.
Thank you. Jim?
First and foremost, my oldest son's a police sergeant down on the border in Southern California. And I can tell you in his 18 years of service, he's never had one child or been aware of one child taken out of school to be deported. So I'm not sure that it's a very real threat here in town. I do support the position taken by the council earlier in the year that was made public, and I also support the police chief and what he's laid out in terms of how he deals with ICE operations in town. And I think we just need to let that take its course and assume that they know what they're doing and that they're going to carry it out the way it was intended to be.
Susan?
This is an issue that I've yet to see really thoroughly discussed at the council level, but I think what's incredibly important in this community is that everyone feels safe, regardless of immigration status. Our students should always feel safe, and I think what we're going to need to do is, if things escalate at all, and we haven't seen much of this in Novato, school districts should always be working in partnership with the city. If things happen, something happens that changes what's going on right now, that relationship is really important. And again, it's children feeling safe is huge, not just those with a different immigration status, but we have a lot of issues with our youth in this city, and I think they should always be a priority. Thank you.
On this topic, some might argue that immigration is a national issue and it's not within the purview of a local city government. I don't buy that. I believe that with the rhetoric that's coming out at the national level, and when there's fear in a local community, then it's incumbent upon local elected officials to stand up and to make sure that their residents know that they're safe in the community. So that's why when we have issues, whether we pass a resolution at the city council about a safe, inclusive community, I'm a part of that discussion. When there's a rally that's held outside of City Hall, I see some of the organizers from that here tonight. I attend those rallies and speak and make sure my voice is known, because it's important to send a message to our local community. We've also have a group that's forming called Not in Our Town that's actually been involved in Novato for many years, and there's a new energy coming with it. I encourage individuals to get involved. There's a survey that's going out right now. I see that as a vehicle that the city can be a part of to make sure our community knows that they are safe and that Novato is a safe and inclusive community. Thank you.
So there is an enormous fear of ICE and of our county sheriffs in Novato, and that's a justifiable fear. Our police force does a great job and has a good policy, but families have been separated in Novato. ICE has staked out schools in Novato, and because Novato doesn't have a jail, anytime the City of Novato police take someone into custody or are asked to take someone into custody and bring them down to Civic Center, that person is in danger of deportation. Our current sheriff's department policy is to get around certain regulations that are part of the California Values Act by doing what they call a warm handoff. All of these things are known in the immigrant community. Whether you're legal or whether you're here without papers, there is a huge fear. Speaking out about it is a good first step.
Thank you. Melissa?
So I noticed something. I was walking around with a clipboard this last weekend when I was visiting different houses and putting out my information, and when I was in a certain area and people were looking at me really weird with my clipboard, and I said, oh my gosh, they're probably getting the wrong idea. I'm looking too official. And so that made me think, wow, and these people just live right across the highway from me in District 5, So anyway, I think it's just by leading by example. Like you said, it is our problem. No one wants to take children out of school. I haven't heard of that happening here. I would obviously be against that. We want to make a safe environment for everyone. One of my platforms was, protect values of women, protect values of children, but really guarantee all rights of all people and make it an inclusive place to live. And so I think, but a council member, you just have to lead by example, voice your opinion, and, try to continue to make it a great place to live.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to start with Amy. Global warming with rising sea levels is in the forefront of the news. How should Novato start to prepare for this eventuality?
Well, first of all, you should understand that at Hamilton, we have two levees. One levee is further out, and it was breached because we have the wetlands and we have that beautiful path and walkway that's quite nice. We also have to make sure that that levee is still doing what it needs to do and being measured. It's the only level in the county that is actually approved by FEMA. But the city has been tracking the levee, and we also need to make sure that that continues to happen, and that when it needs to be, as sea level goes up, and it will, that we need to make sure we're on top of that, obviously not behind it, because our residents in District 5 are extremely concerned about the sea level rising. And we also need to appreciate that there is actually climate change, and that we're all part of that and looking at our own carbon footprint to see what we can do each day in each way to decrease our carbon imprint, so that we have at least make an effort so that we can contribute to that climate change going down, even if it's a little bit.
I think there's two components to addressing that. One is what Amy was talking about, is having a flood disaster plan and a flood control plan. From what I've read, the two outcomes of global warming are what we've experienced, fires, and great disparities in heat and cold, and also flooding. So having those two plans in place, both for purposes of what to do and how to mitigate the risk of that, will be important. The next part would be to really work with the Bay Area partners, that would include the County of Marin and other stakeholders, to help us do that. I don't know that we can do it on our own. So I think it would take a collaborative approach to handle this problem.
Susan?
So last week I attended a forum that Senator Mike McGuire held here in Novato, and they were addressing the issues with Highway 37. So Highway 37, as we all know, was terribly inundated with water last winter. So he's put together collectively a lot of different agencies at the state and the county level, and they're working on short-term and long-term improvements currently to Highway 37. So like Jim mentioned, working together in partnership with these agencies is critical to addressing future, will be flood problems because of global warming. In Nevada, we've historically done a pretty good job. We've widened creeks and maintained levees and made improvements to address flooding, because we've had flooding problems in the past. My first year in Nevada, in I believe it was 1982-83, we had terrible flooding. So I'm happy that this city does stay abreast of that. It is a priority for the city, and if I'm elected, it will continue to be. Thank you.
During my last term, I served on a county-wide working group, a sea level rise committee in Marin, between the different cities and the county, and we were able to get funding to do a vulnerability assessment for the entire county that would show the impacts of sea level rise over the long term in areas in our town that are vulnerable. We've been able to fold that into our general plan along with a white paper that was produced on sea level rise. So that will help us with future zoning decisions here in Nevada, so that we don't continue to build in areas that are going to be underwater in many years from now. There's really only two options. You've got sort of a planned retreat from those zones, or fortification. So fortunately, we have that plan that will help us in our decisions moving forward. But I think also Nevada could continue to encourage residents to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I think the number one way we do that is through transportation changes. Over 50% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from the transportation sector. So maybe if we all think a little bit about how we get from here and there, we could help reduce that.
So mostly we have to get a little bit loud. We have to demand a little bit more. I went to that Highway 37 forum, and they told us, you know what, we'll probably get something done in 5 or 6 years. Some concrete will be laid in 5 or 6 years. And I'm thinking, this is laying concrete. We can do this faster. We can do this better. We can demand more from our county, regional, and state agencies that are dragging their feet on, for instance, Highway 37. But it's not just the concrete. It's the aspirations. We as a city, we as a citizenry have to ask ourselves, what can we do different? What can we do better? How can we aspire to give ourselves a green future? Well, as we face, coming up right now, maybe in 2 days, de-energization, you know what we can do to avoid de-energization in the future is be our own PG&E, be our own neighborhood microgrids. We have the technology. What we don't have is the collective will and the aspirations to build solar and wind and local power into every neighborhood.
Melissa?
So I would agree that we have to get involved in the solutions. And I do understand that this is a Bay Area problem. This is a California problem. Anybody on the water, this is a big issue. And I know that there's architects and engineers working on plans, big plans on how to navigate the water throughout the Bay Area. But of course, we have to do things on a local level. But if we don't have the state and the Bay helping us out, we just can't. Nevada's not going to go underwater, and the rest of the states is going to let it happen. That's just not going to happen. So I just think we need to find out more what's going on and alleviate any issues, and definitely take care of our own levee problems and things like that locally that we can manage.
Marie?
Okay, so this is a huge issue for me and in District 5. When Hamilton was built below sea level, the county wrote the city of Novato a letter and said, don't do that. And if you do that, you're on your own. The county is not helping out. County has flood engineers, and they have oversight of their different flood districts, but Hamilton is on its own. We're completely dependent upon the city of Novato to take care of us. There's no oversight of the city of Novato. When the levy was raised, they found it had settled more than it had before, than it had been anticipated in its design documents. Then a bunch of fill was put that is going to further accelerate the settling of the levy. It has not been studied for sea level rise. So we're kind of, as Hamilton residents, we are below sea level. We're in the dark. We have no citizens oversight like the county does. And we don't really have specific flood control engineers. So that's why I'm calling for citizen oversight. Also, our pump stations are rusty and there's no plan to replace them that I can see. So that's why I'm calling for that.
The next question, we're going to start with Jim. Next year's ballot will include Schools and Community First, an initiative to lift caps on property taxes for commercial and industrial properties while continuing to protect homeowners, renters, and small businesses. The increased revenue, estimated to be $11 billion per year, will help fund our schools and local communities. What is your view of California's current property tax system, and would you support proposed reform efforts?
Save the hardest question for this guy, too.
Yeah.
That's a really hard question. The concept of split rolls and assessing it on commercial and industrial properties is a tough one. During the years of 08 and 2016, somewhere between 8,000 and 13,000 businesses have left California. And the reason they leave is for a number of reasons. One is for the anti-business climate, and number two is so expensive to operate business here. I've been a business owner. I know how it works. I'm used to signing checks on the front, not the back, and I get it. So before I would support something like that, I really would want to know what the cost would be to the average taxpayer, and truly what controls would be in place to be assured this money is going to where it's supposed to be directed. That would be my major concern.
Thank you. Susan?
This is definitely, like Jim just said, it's an issue that I would need to learn more about. I'm overwhelmed with my own personal property taxes currently. I recently lost my husband, and I'm facing increased expenses in my own home and bearing the cost myself. So I have a complete appreciation as an individual homeowner of what that's like. In terms of commercial businesses, again, I agree with what Jim had to say. We have a lot of businesses moving out of California for various reasons. So I would be really interested in learning a lot more, the pros, the cons, and definitely what residents have to say about the issue. Thank you.
Yes, with regards to split roll, until I've seen the actual language and how there's a lot of negotiations going on, but generally in concept, I'm in favor of it. When you look at the funding for our schools here in California, we need a little bit of help. When you look at the funding for other jurisdictions, that money in Marin, it's estimated to be $70 million a year for Marin alone that would benefit if we were to move to a split roll system. So I think those funds could go to places where we desperately need them. On the education front, I would hope that would allow us to really spend some money within years 1 through 5 in early childhood education. When you look at it as a state, I know we're getting a little removed from Novato now, but I think as a state we need to find a way to make sure that everybody that has a kid of preschool age can afford to put their kids in preschool, and I think this might be a way that we can do it.
Kevin?
So here's the thing. I'm really against taxes in general. Now, I know that's a popular position on one level. It's not popular on the other level, which is, well, then how are we going to pay for things like schools and community services and roads? Okay, most taxes are regressive, right? Sales taxes, those are the things that are paid by people who are minimum wage workers and people who are zillionaires equally. Every other civilized country in the world has a value-added tax, which basically puts the burden of taxation on people who are buying yachts. You pay a lot of value-added tax on yachts. I'm all for that. That's a great way to figure out how to build our communities and our schools stronger, better, faster. And it lets people off the hook for income tax and for sales tax, which are hurting the people who need the help the most. So, yeah, let's fix our schools, let's fix our communities, but let's do it with a value-added tax.
Melissa?
So I feel like property taxes are high already. I think, the American dream is to own a house. Amy was mentioning earlier about downsizing. The cost for me to sell a house and buy a house would be at the same price, and if the property taxes go up, it just makes it that much more expensive, and we have to always keep that in mind. I mean, they're very high. So there's got to be another way without raising our taxes. Of course, I want the schools to be funded and everybody to have the basic necessities that they need, but I just don't know that it needs to be done with property taxes going any higher than they are already.
So, Prop 13 is a very meaty topic. And when we talked about why isn't California building more housing, it's probably directly related to Prop 13. Because cities like Novato lose money for every house that's built, and we gain money when they build a store that has retail tax. Our $42 million general fund budget, less than 20% of it comes from the property taxes that you and I pay. So we're very dependent on sales tax. The state is dependent on income tax, which are very recession-oriented. So it just causes these crazy swings. So I am in favor of doing something sensible with Prop 13. I went to the cost seminar about the split roll, and they defined a really great tax as a tax that someone else pays. That's what we're all looking for, is that tax that someone else pays. They didn't actually think the split roll was going to be on the ballot. Apparently it's been withdrawn. But I'm totally in favor of some kind of reform of Prop 13.
And I know Prop 13 has haunted us for a long time, and it's a problem in terms of the kind of schools we want versus the kind of schools that we currently have, and they're doing such an amazing job. I'm a definite Novato School District lover. I always get worried when they're going to move to split taxes, if in fact they do, but who knows? Because as money becomes available for the schools, sometimes they pull out some of the money that was already there. So it's like a shell game. You almost have to watch, like, oh, we just got this money, but then what happened to that money? So I think there has to be some oversight. I think this is going to be quite a multi-dimensional arm wrestling match because it's so complex. And we have a lot of folks who are having to move because they cannot afford the current taxes that they pay right now. And everyone keeps going, please don't raise our taxes, please. And we are taxed heavily. So it's quite it's a careful word that you have to use when you're talking about tax and which way things will go.
Okay, I think we have time for one, maybe two questions. If you are elected, what are your thoughts for improving fire safety and emergency preparedness? And we're going to start with Susan.
So currently, there is a proposal for a countywide, I believe it's a parcel tax. I haven't had a lot of sleep in the last few days, to address this issue. So in terms of fire safety, I know we're really blessed in Nevada. We have an amazing fire district. They're well-funded. They're well-organized. Our chief did a presentation recently at a city council meeting in regards to this countywide effort. I know it still needs, I think, support. I'm not sure when it's going to, I think it should be on the ballot in March. But fire is one of our biggest fears. There's a risk tomorrow. I know City of Roanoke Park just had a meeting having to do with potential outages, PG&E turning off the power up in Sonoma County tomorrow. So we have a lot of risk in town, in the area, in the region, and we need to be better prepared. Novato does a good job working with our fire district.
When it comes to fire safety, the question always comes up, who's responsible? Is it the city of Novato? Is it the fire protection district, because we have a separate district for that? Is it the insurance companies? Is it the individual homeowner? And I always say the answer is yes. Every one of those groups is responsible. We all have a role that we need to play, and it's important that we work very closely with all of those different groups. That means good collaboration with our fire district and helping them get the word out about improvements that individuals can make to their homes. We've also in the city of Novato have really helped neighborhood groups form Firewise communities, of which I'm so proud that Novato has 7 Firewise communities in Novato, more than any other city in Marin, and that number is growing. And if you don't have a Firewise community in your neighborhood, you need to start one. And if there is one there, you need to get involved with it. But this issue is too big for any one group to be able to solve. We all need to be working on it together, and I think the best thing we could be doing right now is public outreach, getting the word out, getting people educated, make sure they know evacuation plans, and making improvements to their home.
So I think that there are 2 answers here. One is the basic answer, right? Fire safety and emergency preparedness is pretty simple on one level. You have to have education. You have to know what's right. You have to have an emergency plan. You have to have defensible space and have done what we call nowadays in the nomenclature fire safe gardening. But also, we need hopeful measures, imaginative measures, like getting rid of power lines. Right now, PG&E is going into bankruptcy. They're going to be selling off their assets. The city of San Francisco is already looking at buying the transmission lines in San Francisco. That means that they'll be able to make money from them at first, but they're going to take that money and use it to put those power lines underground. That eliminates a great fire danger. It helps make neighborhoods more resilient. And in the end, that's what we need. As Eric was saying, neighborhood by neighborhood, Novato can be better and do better.
So, living in Hamilton, one of the first things that I think people should do is we're going to really need some new cell towers. Anybody that lives there that's here today knows that their cell reception is just really horrible. So as far as communicating to people, this is just for evacuation if we're in a really bad situation. So that, of course, just being able to get the word out, letting people know to be safe. I also agree with my colleagues that we have to remind people about fire safety and clearing around the house and doing these basic things, having an emergency kit. You don't want to depend. You need to be able to take care of yourself for 2 or 3 days. We forget that. We think the first responders are going to come in and save us, and it's just not that way if you have to save thousands of people. San Mateo had an event last week. They brought the people together. They brought specialists together to teach them these things about fire safety and what they can do for themselves. So I think this kind of communication, along with supporting our, first responders and our fire department is the things that we need to do as a community.
Yeah. Thank you. So when it comes to fire, property, and life, which one's more important? Life, right? So evacuation and communication are really, really important. We, in District 5, we have several communities that have only one way out. And it is possible to find other ways out that have a high priority on it. The communication part was really brought home to me. We lost our power a few weeks ago in the middle of the night. And when I got up in the morning a couple hours later, I smelled smoke in the house, and because there had been a fire, and my cell phone didn't work because our power went out, and we have no cell phone communication, and I did not know what to do. And I know, being a realtor, there are places all over Novato that have very sketchy cell phone signals. It's a panic. When you smell smoke, your power's out, you have no communication. So evacuation and communication are 2 things that I think that we have to put high on the list.
Thank you.
I've been lucky to go to many Firewise meetings. I've kind of become a geek now, and so I'm really excited about what's happening in Pacheco Valley, and I haven't been to the one yet at our Marin Valley mobile home, but they are kind of big movie stars as well in the Firewise department, and they really take it seriously to the point of you will know what plant in your front yard you're not supposed to have. Sadly, I have to see my rosemary go. But they have a list of plants. There's also grants available to help clear. Homeowners associations can get grants to help clear certain foliage out from right in front of your house. But I agree with also the other candidates that we need a plan. We all have plans. But like when you have kids in school and they all have to have a disaster backpack in each of the classrooms, that's the kind of conversation that we also want to have it when we're not in school. so that if we did go around to each home in our own little neighborhood with our captains and just say, how's your backpack, or do you have your supplies ready, and kind of have more of a neighborhood event to kind of make it even more important to get those pieces in place. But your Firewise committees are off the hook here, so tap into them.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, certainly the fires in California has gotten everybody's attention, and, you know, for sure they're dreadful. And honestly, I don't think that all of us know exactly what we would do in the event of a neighborhood fire and how to get in, get out, and what to do. So I think outreach is critical. I don't know much about Firewise, but having some kind of mechanism to create these neighborhood meetings to educate people and have a plan, I think would be really important. The fire department is generally reactive, but I can share with you that if you call the fire department and ask them to come out to your house, they will spend 1/2 hour with you, evaluate your entire property, and give you recommendations on what to do, what plants not to have, what trees to cut down, and so forth. And it's my neighbors have done it, and they found it incredibly valuable, and the people are so nice and cooperative. Lastly, I think a solution to it is having this collaboration amongst agencies, including the county. I'm a little concerned about the recent agency the county has created or wants to create to monitor this and the tax that's going to be incurred. I'm not sure that's the best solution for us. It's going to just cost us more money, but I think a solution is imminent and can be done with collaboration.
All right, this is the last question, and we're going to start with Eric. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in town?
So we are fortunate in Nevada that we have a really engaged community. And it shows when we have key issues, the amount of turnout that we get at City Hall. But there's still so much more that we need to be doing. We've made some improvements to our website and alert notifications so people can sign up. But we need to continue to get the word out. And I think one of the things as a council member that I have done and will continue to do is make myself as present as I can, not just in the district where I am, but throughout the community. I've tried to use some online engagement tools through my Facebook page and putting together a monthly blog to try to get the message out to individuals that maybe not be paying attention to what's happening at City Hall. And I think if every council member continues to do that, as most of our council members do and have done, that's just one way we can continue to get the word out. Public engagement, it's a tough one because sometimes people don't get engaged until it's a little too late in the process, and it's something that all cities, including Novato, face, and we could continue to improve upon.
So I would like to answer this in Spanish. Unfortunately, my Spanish is not that good. But the important thing to remember about citizen engagement moving forward is that 30% of Novato is English as a second language. Now, what that means practically is we, and I'm looking around, most of the people here look like me. We who have been brought up speaking English and with all the advantages that confers on us, need to be thinking about engaging the entire citizenry of Novato. Low income, high income, out in the perimeter, downtown. Downtown, if you look at the statistics, and we're going to get some stuff from the new census, downtown, about 1/4 of the residents around here were born in another country. How many people know that? How many people will care about that? Hopefully, a lot more.
Melissa?
So I just feel that we need to encourage people to come together. I was like, if anybody has school children, no, everybody has a different, very long last name. It's really kind of fun to learn everybody's name. But we just need, one of my platforms is to get people involved. Obviously, I have not been involved in local politics. I wanted to get involved in local politics because I just wanted to get involved. And I'm really glad to see everybody here today that has come out to get involved. And so my platform is encouraging people to get involved. There's like 45% of my district is registered voters out of the 10,000 that can vote. So part of my platform is like, get out and vote. You've got one more week before you need to register to vote to make a difference. And so it's just part of the communication, education, just keep going and do things as a city that bring people together. I'd like to see a garden or something.
Marie?
So bringing this bringing this back to the city council level, the city has been accused of writing some pretty obscure descriptions of projects on postcards and sending them out, and the same thing on the agenda. You know, most of the times you look at the city council agenda and you really don't know why you should care or what's being talked about. It's very legalese. So one thing that I've done is I use Nextdoor a lot to communicate things because it does reach a local audience. I think the city could be a lot better in writing descriptions of projects to explain why you should care and kind of describe what it is. You know, a 3-story project, right? It's located here, it's whatever. And it doesn't have to do all of that in a limited postcard, but I think we can be a lot more descriptive and put ourselves in people's shoes about what is it that they care about so that we can bring things to their attention. And I think that will make people have more confidence in city government.
I think looking at the demographics, as you've spoken about, and the number of ESL folks that we have in town, distilling messages and sound bites in a simplistic way, and making sure that when we did our ballot statements, we paid to have them translated into Spanish so that they could read them. But I also think that we do have to simplify things, acknowledge what level, many people are not as well educated as others, but I'm never offended if I get a simple explanation of something that I can understand and then I can articulate back to somebody. So I think we have to be mindful of our communication, simplify it, and make it easier and less intimidating to go to City Hall and to be in that room. I love the program that the council has, Novato Proud. It's so nice that it's people that come that get acknowledged for some of the work that they've done. It's beautiful, and I think if many folks could just see those little small celebrations, that gives you a lot of hope that there is engagement between the council and the city and the folks that live there.
This is a very big deal. In my travels, not just doing this, but also my career, people like to feel inspired, and they like to feel that their voice is heard and not dismissed. And I think that, I'm not implying that that's happened here, but I'm just saying that I think one of the keys to success is being a better listener than you are a talker. And I think you get a whole lot more accomplished when you listen more than you talk. And I think that's a skill we should all practice a little bit more of. The second part is you have to really care about what happens here and listen to people's concerns. And they want to be heard, and they want to voice their opinion, and they have a lot of good things to say. We all have a lot of good things to say if people will listen to you and listen to us. The last part is relative to trust. And I don't expect you all to trust me offhand, but I do expect to earn your trust, and that is something that's earned. And I think that every council member needs to earn that trust. And if you can get that trust from people, then it opens the door for so many good things to happen.
So I was precinct walking this weekend in a neighborhood, and I came across a couple of residents who were incredibly unhappy with development that was approved near their home. And I got an earful from one fella, and you know, I felt pretty bad that he felt that he hadn't been heard, that his like-minded neighbors had not been heard, and it made me think about what could we have done better to have made that process better, or perhaps change the project to some degree. Here in Novato, we have made a lot of new efforts over the past several years. We have Open Novato. We have city staff that regularly post on Nextdoor and Facebook. In San Marin, we share those posts on our SMIA Facebook page. We can continue to make measures like that. There's always room for improvement. I think even events like Sundays on Sherman is a wonderful event. It brings families down, and I think it makes people really feel like this community does care and listen to them. Thank you.
That concludes the question portion of this forum. Before the candidates make their closing statements, here's some useful information about the election. Election day is Tuesday, November 5th. If you wish to register to vote, or you've moved since the last election and you need to re-register, you may register online up until October 21st. Registration forms mailed to the County Election Department must be postmarked no later than October 21st. Vote by mail requests must be received no later than October 29th. If you go to the League of Women Voters Voters Edge website at votersedge.org/CA and enter your street address and zip code, you'll be able to see your own ballot with links to the candidates, issues, ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. This is a terrific tool in helping you make sure that you have a voting plan in place prior to the election. And now the candidates will make closing statements of 1 minute. We'll go in reverse order of opening statements, starting with Amy Peel.
Thank you for your attention tonight and coming out on a school night. I really appreciate it. I believe that actions speak louder than words. If you look at my track record as a resident of Novato, you'll see for the last 30 years when we saw things, my husband, people we went to school with, we got things done. I was president of the PTA presidents. I was president of the Novato Human Needs. I even ran after John Burton in Sacramento and begged him for money for our schools that didn't have string attached because we were so upset about all the strings attached to the money coming from Sacramento. I get things done. I'm not intimidated. I'm a team player. When I worked in transplant, we said transplant was a team sport. City council's a team sport. We need to get along together, we need to make some decisions, and we need to move Novato where it really wants to go. I think there's a lot of energy in this town, and I'm really excited to be your District 5 representative, and I thank you for your attention.
We're going reverse, so it's Marie.
Okay, hi there. So I believe that I am the best qualified candidate to serve District 5 on the Novato City Council. I served on Novato's Planning Commission and voted for the Whole Foods building, which has helped our downtown. I worked to improve neighborhood projects across the city on the Design Review Commission. I've attended, read staff reports, and spoken at council meetings for 20 years. I've been president of my HOA board since 2013. I lowered our HOA fees by 30%. I reduced the number of poorly maintained homes by more than 50%. I changed the tone of our board meetings from fractious to cooperative. Our annual HOA meeting has become such a positive event that over 100 people attended this year. And I initiated a collaborative relationship with the City of Novato on the maintenance they do for our Community Services District. I'm asking for your vote because I'm independent, I possess relevant experience, and I have a track record of service, accountability, and accomplishment in my community.
Melissa.
I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and I'm really happy to be here and to meet everybody. Every time I come and do one of these forums, I learn so much about what's important to you. And so what I bring to the community is I want to be a voice for the community. This is the first time we've separated into districts, District 5, and now it's time for my community to be heard. It doesn't really matter what I want to do or what I have done. It matters really what you have done and what you want to have done. So my platform was, quality education for all, keep affordable housing affordable. My MBA was on affordable housing, and that it's not affordable once you move in, and protect the values of women, raise income through education. I think that wasn't brought up tonight, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do in that area. And I want to guarantee all rights and lead by example and be accessible and be a voice.
As a lifelong Novato resident, as a community activist, as a businessman, I stand for a bunch of bullet points. Making our city a green showcase, eliminating city fees and taxes, prosperity through investment, no new taxes, camaraderie among council members. There's a bunch more. But if you leave this forum with one thing in mind, I would like it to be this: a sense of urgency, that there's no more waiting around, that we don't want any more Novato theaters or community houses or Peony Hardwares. We want a bunch of things happening because we can do this. This isn't rocket science. This is a town where we know a bunch of people and we all want the same things. And yet somehow we get involved in petty arguments and difficulties that can be put aside with goodwill, with thoughtful, invigorated people coming to city council meetings, and Spanish outreach among them. Urgency. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending this evening and for our hosts as well. I bring 4 unique qualifications to the Novato City Council. First, as a Novato native, I have a unique perspective of our community's history and our city's values. Secondly, I offer experience and a proven track record with 8 years on the City Council and 4 years on the Parks and Recreation Commission prior to that. Third, I bring 15 years of business background and have experience managing people and large budgets. Professionally, I'm currently the Chief Marketing Officer for Mike's Bikes, headquartered right here in Novato. Finally, as the father of a young family, I'm able to provide insights to the council that will be in the best interests of families and children. I have the support of the Novato police officers, the Marin professional firefighters, Congressman Huffman, 6 former Novato mayors, and all 7 of the school board members, and I hope to earn your support as well. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the League and the Seroptimists for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you. Novato is a wonderful community. My husband and I were incredibly fortunate to be able to run a business and raise a family here. For me, Novato's true charm has always come from our people. We are a community that connects with its neighbors, and we look out for one another. As cities around us grow into cookie-cutter versions of one another, we are uniquely placed to become a small-town destination, one with creative places to shop, great food, and fun, family-friendly activities. Our downtown has the opportunity to become a safe hub that brings us together, supports our hometown vibe, and is the foundation for a strong economy. Through my 5+ years on the Novato Planning Commission and years working in local businesses, I've developed the skills, experience, and relationships to be effective. I'm inspired and excited for our future. I look forward to coming together and investing in a vision that provides positive activities for our families, brings our community together, and celebrates the spirit of our past while building strength for our future.
You've probably figured out I'm not a politician. So I'm a pretty straight shooter. So I'll tell you what I will do. I will always act in the best interest of the community, irrespective of special interests or my personal views, without fear of political risk. If I make a mistake or an error in judgment, I will take full responsibility for it and hopefully learn from it and not repeat it. I will show up at every meeting and cast my vote, even when the vote may be unpopular. And I will not let my personal feelings or special interests ever influence decisions that affect public safety or the well-being of the community. I'm a value-driven person. Things like ethics, integrity, and honesty I worship those things, and I live them, and I have lived them in my career and my personal life. What I'll close with is I had 25 years ago when I had hair, one of my mentors, or a mentor I had that has now gone, said, Jim, if you're going to be successful in life, what you should need to do is to strive for perfection. And if you don't achieve it, achieving excellence is not a bad result. So I really aspire to inspire people and the people here to do that. And if we could do that and try really hard to do that, I think only good things could happen.
That concludes our forum. We'd like to thank NCTV for broadcasting and live streaming this event. It will be rebroadcast on Channel 26 and posted on YouTube. The YouTube link will be available at marinlwv.org. Thank you to the League of Women Voters Novato Cohort and Seroptimist International of Novato for making tonight's forum possible. Thank you to the Novato Unified School District for making this space available. Thanks to the candidates for participating, to Elaine Biagini for timekeeping, and Jackie Dagg for sorting questions. And to you for joining us tonight, and most importantly, for voting.
Good job.